Solitude is the price of greatness. This phrase, attributed to the philosopher and writer Friedrich Nietzsche, contains a profound concept that many find difficult to accept: loneliness. This, as feared as it is underestimated, can represent a path of growth and discovery. But what does it really mean to be alone? Is it a condition to be avoided at all costs, or a choice that can transform into an opportunity to build a more authentic connection with oneself? In a world dominated by digital interactions and constant social pressure, loneliness is often perceived as a personal defeat. Yet, figures such as Carl Jung, Nietzsche, and other great thinkers have described solitude not only as a refuge from chaos, but also as a necessary condition for inner growth. In this video, we explore the value of solitude, its dangers and opportunities, through the thoughts of great philosophers and ancient spiritual traditions. If you like, subscribe to the channel so you don't lose sight of us, and maybe leave a like. Thank you for your precious support. Solitude, according to Carl Jung, is not just a moment of isolation, but a state that, if understood, can reveal an incredible transformative power. He warned that solitude is as dangerous as it is seductive. The peace found in being alone can make it difficult, if not impossible, to return to the complexities of human relationships. This reflection connects to multiple philosophical and spiritual traditions that have celebrated the value of social detachment. For example, the Rhinoceros Sutra, an ancient Buddhist text, uses the metaphor of this solitary animal to urge freedom from attachments. Wandering alone like a rhinoceros symbolizes the autonomy and detachment needed to reach enlightenment. Similar insights are found in Taoism, where the rejection of society is seen as a return to the pure essence of the self, away from the rules and expectations imposed by the group. Solitude, however, is not just a spiritual refuge. Even the philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau described his choice to isolate himself as an act of protection, a way to escape human hostility and find consolation in nature. Instead, Henry David Thoreau, in his famous book Walden, recounted the experience of living alone in a cabin in the woods, underlining how contact with nature and simplicity can be sources of great serenity. It's not just poetry or philosophy. Even in everyday life, solitude offers practical benefits. Thinking about your own personal space, free from compromise, where everything is organized according to your needs, represents a unique freedom. Arthur Schopenhauer considered solitude a fundamental element to living an authentic and full life. "He who does not love solitude does not love freedom," he wrote, emphasizing that the greatest independence is achieved when one distances oneself from others. For him, solitude was not a way to escape reality, but rather an opportunity to free oneself from social expectations and external influences. In it resided an intimate and precious space, an ideal place to cultivate reflection and clearly define one's desires and values without the weight of other people's judgment. Yet solitude carries with it an inherent ambivalence. Friedrich Nietzsche spoke of it as an ambiguous experience. Detachment from the herd offers the possibility of emancipation from the so-called slave morality, a system of values that he believed oppressed creativity and repressed individuality. But this same separation can become excessive isolation, capable of distancing not only from others, but also from the ability to relate in a human and constructive way. A less discussed aspect of Nietzschean thought is the creative function of solitude. For Nietzsche, it was a fertile ground for the renewal of thought, an opportunity to redefine one's values and discover new existential perspectives. But if poorly managed, loneliness risks turning into an emotional prison, leading to a sense of emptiness and alienation. This paradox raises a crucial question. How do we maintain the balance between the autonomy needed to cultivate oneself and the human need for connection? Schopenhauer and Nietzsche, although starting from different perspectives, agreed on one essential point. Solitude is a powerful but also delicate tool. It is necessary for free thought, for self-confrontation, and for the creation of personal meaning, but it requires constant attention to prevent it from turning into sterile isolation. Perhaps it is precisely this duality that makes solitude such a feared yet precious experience. In the current context, where digital interactions seem to have taken over, the thought of these philosophers invites us to reflect. Solitude is not a forced exclusion, but can become a conscious choice to rediscover oneself, temporarily distancing oneself from the noise of society. It is up to each individual to find their own balance, learning to value solitude as a resource for their own growth, without, however, closing themselves in an isolation that limits authentic relationships. Being alone by choice is not the same as suffering from imposed loneliness, a distinction that many people struggle to recognize. Social relationships, after all, are an essential part of life. Yet these are not always positive. Toxic environments, destructive criticism, and dysfunctional relationships can become sources of great suffering. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Every day we meet difficult people, and solitude, in these cases, can become a breath of fresh air, a way to protect one's energy and focus one's attention on what really matters." It is not surprising, then, that many spiritual traditions consider solitude a necessary condition for reflection. The Buddha himself urged his followers to detach themselves from society, to cultivate meditation and mindfulness. He also emphasized how silence and solitude were fundamental tools to develop a deeper understanding of life, a safe haven where external noise dissolves to make room for awareness and spiritual growth. Even Nietzsche, while criticizing organized religion, saw in solitude an opportunity to create new values and find one's own meaning outside of social conventions. So we can say that reflection on solitude is never univocal. For some, it is an escape from suffering. For others, a creative or spiritual refuge. Whatever the motivation, learning to be alone can be one of the most liberating and transformative experiences you can have. The question remains, how much space are you willing to allow for solitude in your life? What do you think about this content? Leave a comment. See you soon.